There's a sequence, there's a code, there's a combination. And when you get the right combination, it unlocks everything for us. Oh, man. What's happening?
What's going on?
It's rocking and rolling, man. Rocking and rolling. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Another episode of our Coach Code podcast. And, I'm super excited about the podcast, but really it's we take bite-sized chunks, but every Thursday we go live to social media platforms with our deep dive conversations with just some amazing folks that I have the opportunity to know, work with. And so this whole podcast really is about helping other people connect dots faster. And, it's just being able to have that belief that there's a code and a sequence to anything in our lives. And sometimes being able to hear other examples, other stories from other amazing people out there in the trenches doing their thing can give us a little aha insight and really help us collapse time. Just one story from someone that's in a similar situation or an experience that you're in. If you're able to learn from them, right? Wisdom, you don't have to touch the hot stove, and you can learn kind of some of the lessons that they've had to go through. It helps us all. It helps us all collapse time and connect the dots and move faster. And that's really what this is about. And today's no different, man. I'm super excited. Got Mr. Bryan Colquitt on with us. What's up, brother?
What's going on, man? Just another day in paradise, right?
you do live in a little part of the world that is could be considered paradise. And it's awesome.
This time of year is a perfect time for it. Today, it's sun's out, 75-ish degrees. So like, if it could stay like this every day, it'd be perfect.
Yeah. And it's a good day to tee it up.
Yeah, I wish.
Oh, man. So give everybody kind of listening in or tuning in with us live right now, just a little bit of background, a little bit of story about yourself.
Okay.
Life before, getting into kind of real estate business, and then, leading up to kind of where we're at, and then, being able to share kind of what we're excited about moving into the future.
Yeah. Well, first, JK, thanks for having me on, man. I know we've been working together for a couple months now, and I know you've been a huge influence and mentorship to us. So thank you for having us on today. But no, man, I think rewinding and looking backwards and looking at where we are now, we are, as you just said, in North Carolina, High Point, North Carolina, Triad, born and raised in a town. I call it a small town, but been here my whole life. You just mentioned being on the course from age 4 through, I'm going to say 18 to 20. That's all I did was play golf. That was all I had in my mind was I was going to be a pro golfer when I grow up. I was going to be the next Tiger Woods. He was my inspiration and role model, all those different things. But, looking back on it, it helps where I'm at today. But yeah, so that's where I was, small town golfer, avid golfer. My main focus was that. Then, of course, you start hitting adulthood, start realizing that that's a little bit different scenario is trying to go the pro route. It's very expensive. You got to have a lot of financial resources to help. It's one of the things I did not have. So, of course, pivoted, worked a couple different jobs. I worked in the golf industry for a little bit, quickly realized I didn't want to work, from 6 a.m. to 9 at night, 4 or 5 days a week. Never got to play golf. I thought if I got into the golf industry, I'd play more golf. That was the complete opposite.
Not the case.
It made me, when my days off, the last place I wanted to be was at the golf course where I was at every other day working. So did that for a couple years, shifted kind of all different places. We're in High Point, so it's the furniture capital of the world. Got into the furniture business. Actually was in home delivery, went up the East Coast, in a truck 4 or 5 days a week, delivering furniture to in-house, things like that. Did that for about a year and a half. Met Jenny, my wife now. We kind of reconnected. We knew each other in high school or whatnot, but reconnected. That kind of started getting serious. And of course, conversations. I didn't need to be going all the time. I didn't need to be on the road, and I was
Right.
never in town. So, she was at the University of Charlotte at the time, moved, basically moved down with her. If I was not on the road, I was in town. I was, with her at Charlotte. Once she graduated, we all came back home to High Point. And again, I knew I couldn't continue doing that. So shifted, actually got into the banking industry. Started out as a little part-time teller at the bank, worked myself up. I always had the mindset of, content was not my thing, right? So when I was a part-time teller, this is a funny story. I'm probably gonna sound like a jackass when I say this, but I remember in my interview, here I am interviewing for a little $10 an hour part-time teller, and the branch manager said, what's your goal? What do you want to be? What's your, joining us? I said, well, to be honest with you, I want to have your job. I want to be in your position. I want to be in management, things like that. So, that was kind of my mindset from day one. And I went into that industry with the mindset of, hey, I'm not going to stay a part-time teller. Within a couple of months, I moved to full-time, and then I was doing loans, and then I got asked to be an assistant manager and kind of grew from there. But kind of like the golfing industry, realized that is not what I wanted to do. Still had another passion. Realized that I didn't want to be in a way handcuffed to a job, to a position, to a desk. I wanted to get back out and, that visionary mindset, entrepreneur. I wanted to go take the risk. And I did that. So, and kind of literally burned the boats, as they say. Was on the way to the office one day and had been thinking about what I wanted to do, looked into real estate. And I remember I was on the way to, I had like a 40-minute drive to the branch I was at the time. And I called Jenny, my wife, and said, hey, today's the day. I'm letting them know today's my notice. The real estate class starts in 3 weeks, or I'm sorry, it was like 4 weeks. I was like, I'm going to tell them I'll work up until then, but once class starts, I'm done. Burned the bridges, didn't have anything. It was kind of a, we were young. Now's the time to do it type thing. And kind of just evolved from there, man. I just, went all in from day one, got my license and said, hey, I really didn't have a plan B. I didn't want a plan B. I knew that, I've always been the person that if I'm going to do something, I know what I'm capable of. And I'm the only one that can control that. So I think that's what has led to, in a way, where we are today.
Yeah. No, I love it. And definitely being able to chop it up, talking golf in the same way as you, right?
Oh yeah.
I don't know how many times as a kid been thrown off the back of the golf cart, strapping myself into, where the bags are supposed to go and, running ahead of my dad and trying to get a hole ahead of him and, just, living out there and really trying to push it. And I'm with you, it's time and money to be able to get to that next step, to that next level.
Yeah.
What are for you, some of the things that you learned, those childhood years, out there on the golf course? Cause there's so many key in my experience personally, but also flipping around on, on the coaching side, coaching juniors. I had the opportunity to coach some of the best high school golfers in the country for about a 4-year period. And so being able to see the different levels, not only myself personally, but also being able to coach. But what are some of those key lessons that, you shaped you, that's carried you over into, health, wealth, and relationships?
Looking back on it now, it's hands down the thing that I always tell, I've got some same thing, young golfers that come to me and, knew my skill set, things like that. Talent only takes you so far, and I think that was one of the lessons. If I could go back, I had a lot of talent and I knew, and I could outcompete a lot of the, kind of like yourself. I have a lot of friends that are out on tour now, that I competed against in tournaments and things like that. And you ask yourself what separated them from me, and I think it was, as a youngster, I didn't put in I'm not saying I didn't at always, but I think that's what I look back on. If I would have just worked harder, right? I had a tons of talent. I could, even today, I can go back out there and ain't played in 6 months. I can tee it up and probably, have 8 birdies any given day. But you got to put your work in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I tell people. I had a conversation the other day with a guy. He's got a junior golfer and, just signed in senior year of high school, signed in to going into college. And that was one of the things, it was like, look, it don't matter how good you are right now. And then two, I always tell people was, who are you comparing yourself against? If you're only beating, the 5 or 6 guys that you play with every day, it's a whole different level when you start reaching those different levels, especially in any sport. But I think that was the biggest thing, was like, if I could go back and do it all over again, realizing that, man, I had a shitload of talent, but the work, I should have, and I spent all day, every day at the course, but I still know that there were different levels of work that I could have put in.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I think effort, more
Yep.
disciplined effort on
Yep.
the key activities and the key functions that matter, right? Out there just banging balls, without intent, without, trying to shape shots. I learned a little bit later in life, and, we would even, with the kids when I was actually teaching in myself in the golf industry, I mean, we would do some of the drills, right? We would, we would take the club back, and about to get set at the top, we would call out what type of shot to hit. And then you had to make that adjustment on the down, and, trying to do those things. But those are like discipline, activities, more time on the putting green, more time, and I think that for me, and I don't know if this was for you, it was a little bit of FOMO, right? It was a little bit of, hey, what am I missing out on with my, my buddies? Hey, we're going to be ride or die for forever. Shit, bro, how many of those people I talk to on a weekly, daily basis that I was like, oh, I can't miss. I got to leave the golf course early. I got to go. I can't miss that party. I can't miss that event.
Yep.
Yeah. And we've all been in a similar situation. So, were there moments and things like that for you that prevented you from maybe going a little bit further on the work?
I would say, in a way, I was the opposite. Because my buddies at the time, they were there with me. I mean, during the summertime, we were at the golf course. I had a group, 5 or 6 of us. We had the same group of guys that, we were competing and pushing each other, but it was more of I was, from time to time, because I was, I would say I had the most skill set. So I put in more time from the practice, but they were the ones that were pulling me, man, let's go play 9 holes. Let's go walk the 18. Let's play 36 today, things like that. And it's just, I think it's different than just going out and playing around with your buddies and things like that. Even whether you're 10 years old or today, you still got to set those moments and have that discipline of saying, hey, look, I'm gonna work on this skill set today. It may be, if I'm struggling with putting, I'm gonna spend an hour before we go play on this. I'm gonna be disciplined around that. I think that's when I look back on, is I lived at the golf course. I played 36 holes a day, but I didn't put as much time into those disciplined, narrowing the focus on this skill set and improving that. It was just go out. Hey man, I'm shooting under par. I'm crushing all my buddies. I wanted to get out there and beat the crap out of them.
Yeah.
I think that was the difference was if I could go back on there, it's like I would have spent more time on the, on the range, on the putt green, more than just going out and playing. Even though there's a lot of benefits of that, of being in the game and being out there and competing, you still have to work on what you're doing day in and day out.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, now that's what we're seeing is transferred into business as well.
You and I talked about this. I saw a post, Gary V, last week, and it was around the question of why do most people burn out? And his whole thing was, they fall in love with the end result and they don't fall in love with the process. And we say it to where it's almost cliche, and it's like, okay, you don't even think about it, but what does that mean? And as you just kind of talking through here and thinking through things on the golf course side of things, just like you said, you'd go tee it up, play 36 every day, but like, that's just out having fun. That's just getting after it. You're learning kind of a little bit on the course. There's some competitiveness, course management, but to me, that's not the process. It's like you said, it's the, hour, 2 hours on the putting green, hour, around the chipping green, an hour out of the bunker, hour, working 35 yards and in, 75 yards and in, getting down to really specific and falling in love with that. I know for me, I didn't love that. And I can think back to, those long 5-6 day work weeks that, would start at, 5:30 in the morning and go till, 5:36, 7 o'clock at night for 6 days, right? 6, sometimes 7 days. And that's where I had burnt out, and I didn't fall in love with the process. Was there some truth there for you with that?
Yeah, no, and it's one of those things, again, looking back on it, is I had those, those friends that I mentioned that are on tour. I'm competing against these guys in tournament golf and junior golf and things like that, and I'm beating them. And so my mindset was, why do I need to, yeah, I know they got coaches and they're doing this and they're spending hours on the range, but I'm beating them, right? Why do I need to go do those things? Right. But then you start, as you get older and you get beyond that, you start realizing that they made that 1% improvement every day. And that 1% improvement every single day over 10 years, over 15 years, look where they are now. And that's, when I look at those guys now out there, they're the best golfers in the world, but they're still putting in that process every single day. And I think that's where, if I look back on it, is like, just because I was competing with them then, they were still putting in the time to get better and better and better. And I think that's when I'm like, man, if I could have just put a little bit more effort into that, I may would have evolved with them and been on that same stage. But again, it's, can't change it now. But that was the biggest thing, especially through where we are now in business and seeing how everything relates in so many different ways. It does relate. It's no different than golf is just golf. But, I've got buddies that are out there that, played in the NFL and things like that. And they're the same thing. They were out there, they put in the time. There's a reason they're pros, because they put in that time and discipline every single day to just get better, 1% better every day.
Yeah, that's it, man. It's, you want pro level status, it's pro level behavior.
Yep.
And there was one lesson in, that stands out to me that's carried over into business, into life, more so, is that you never give up on anything. And I was playing with one of mentors when this is the golf course I worked at, and we were out playing, and we'd been working with him for a while, and he was retired off the tour. He made the tour back in the day when you didn't make, you could win an event and you might win, $4,000 back in the day. And so he's just an old school, fundamentals, certain discipline, certain points in the swing, a lot of, Ben Hogan-esque type movement and focus on certain things. And I'll never forget what he said. We were out playing, and it got rough kind of on that back stretch, and got on 17, got a little rough. And then 18 was a par 5, and, grinded it out, ended up making 4 on the last hole. And we were sitting there after the round, and, I soliciting feedback, right? Hey, what did you see out there? How could I be a little bit better? Where do I need to improve? And he said, he gave me a couple pointers, but he goes, there's one thing that I paid the most attention to with you out there today, and it was how you finished. Mm-hmm. He goes, I really was going to see, did you stay engaged until the final hole, until the final putt? The round was over. Did you stay plugged in no matter how good or how bad? Did you stay committed to the round? Did you stay committed? And I was like, holy shit, right? I didn't even think about that. And I did. And maybe it was because he was there playing alongside, and it was, hey, I want to prove to him that, I'm really putting in the effort. And would I have done that? Have I done that in the past? No, we've all coasted it in, right? Blasted them out of bounds on the last hole. You're just like, whatever, right? And you just cruise on in. And so that was that lesson right there. And so that's what we talk about even on the real estate side of things, right? As we get into Q4 sometimes, and you see a lot of agents in this business that take their foot off the throttle, coasting in through the holidays. And it's like, I never let any of our teams, I don't believe in that mindset anymore. It was, you finish the round, you finish the year, you finish the quarter, like you sprint through the finish line. Was there any other like key moments and lessons for you that have carried over, through that development? I mean, you grew up with the golf club in your hand. I mean, those are developmental years, but those lessons and those principles that have, those maybe a moment that really stands out to you that's helped kind of shape you in your career.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I'm not gonna lie. Exactly what you just said. I definitely had those moments where I'm like, you know what, I ain't winning. I'm coasting. F it. I'm done. Things like that. But I have had those moments. And I think one of the things that stood out because I remember everybody in a way, I don't say praise me, but they, same thing, like, gave me that positive feeling where, I'd had a very, very bad first round. I think I shot 77 at the time, which, was bad for that. It was definitely, I was no way I was going to win at that point.
Yeah.
But I came back out the next day and I remember, one of my good mentors, things like that. He told me, he's like, dude, just crush it today, post it. And he said, make the goal to where you can shoot the low round of the tournament. And I did. I went out the next day and shot 63. Had no chance of winning, but I was like, you know what? I know I can compete. I know I can, and I'm gonna show these guys that I can. But I still look back on moments like that to where it's like there's many times there's simple things, kind of what you said is, within golf, within life, within whatever sport it is or anything, like it's the small wins. It's the small things that, hey, I hit a bad shot, I missed the green, but if I can just focus on this next shot, Tiger said it best. He said the number one lesson he tells his kid right now is the next shot is the most important shot, always, right?
Yep.
The next shot, and it's no different. And that's what I think I've tried to bring into business as well. Is like, look, it's every day. It's having that discipline of all hell could break loose today. Every deal could fall through. Everything could happen, and then what do you do? But if you're constantly focused on what is that next focus, what is that next small task that I have control of, and you speak about that a lot is, the one thing we control is 100% effort that we can give to the task ahead of us. And I think having that mindset of, through being with you has kind of shifted that to where it's, that would be the biggest focus is how do we focus on the process and breaking it down to those very, very, very macro, wins and success stories that'll help build us and completely shift and change the outcome.
Yeah.
Where you think that all hell's going to break loose and just that one little small task or that one little small up and down off the green or whatever it is really, I think, catapulted to for me is some of those wins and lessons that I feel like I've learned.
How has I think to excel at anything, we have to have a tremendous short-term memory. We don't want to let go or lose the lesson. However, it's immediately like what you just said. The most important shot is the next shot, and sometimes I've even like I don't care because I'm so focused on the next shot moving forward and the next activity, the next conversation, the next thing. And it's like, well, why don't you care about what just happened? It's like, it's not like I don't care. It's just that I can't do anything about it.
Correct.
And that is instilled from competing at high levels, especially in sports, is like, you are not going to be able to perform your best if you're trying to execute on this next shot and all you're thinking about is 2 or 3 shots ago.
What happened? Correct.
And so, is that been kind of similar for you in kind of, hey, we're learning. Okay, hey, there's nothing we can do about it. Here's how we can improve upon it. But the next most important phone call, the next most important conversation, the next most important activity is the activity that's coming up next.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. Jenny laughs at me all the time is, it's that visionary brain in some ways. That's what it is. It's on to the next, on to the next. It's constantly looking forward and looking ahead. And, yes, do I pause sometimes and we learn lessons from the things that's happened in the past, 1,000%, right? But it's like you just said, that doesn't change the next result. We can learn from it, but at the end of the day, we can't change it. That happened, it's in the past. But I think for us, it's like, or for me, some people can say it's a curse to have that visionary mindset because sometimes you're constantly focused on going forward and you got all this stuff happening. But, I think that's where we've evolved to like, look, this is how you grow. You grow by just letting those results happen. But I think some people get focused on that one result and live through that result instead of going on to the next one. And that's when, I feel like that's when growth kind of stales out sometimes or stalls out. So no, I look at it. Some people look at it as a curse. I look at it as, hey, that's why I continue to move forward. That's why I feel like I've, looking back on some of the me being me and, going back to childhood, I was this, golfer, and I had this mindset. Speaking of Gary Vee, I have very similar to him. I was, teachers, they knew I was never good in school, right? If I got a C, I was doing cartwheels and jumping jacks because I was excited, right? Because, I always knew that I was capable of it, but I always, in my brain, even from a young age, I was so focused, like, look, I'm good. Like because of I operate, I'm looking at that. I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to go out and start doing it. And then constantly focused on that next phase, that next growth, that next success, that next win. And I think now, like a motivation factor, there's many, many stories that I've shared through life that, look, man, that chip is always there because I have so many people that didn't think that I'd be where I am today. If I could go back, and I made a post of the week, and it was one of those things where, like, you know what, that made me feel good, because my 11th grade English teacher, who I thought at the time, like, because every day he's getting on me like, Bryan, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, I'm giving you this, whatever it is, I'm making you come in earlier, you're staying late to catch up, things like that. But then I made a post about, some of the wins that we've had over the last 12 months in the business. And, he commented on it, was like, man, you always had that mindset where you were going to be successful. You were going to do whatever it took to go out and get it. And, from the stories from when I left the banking institution, I remember people, they were like, you're crazy. One of my mentors there, his exact words were, that's not a salary. You're going 100% commission. You and Jenny are young. You're getting married. You got married. Like, what are you going to do when you can't put food on the table in 6 months? I was like, watch, and then it's just that motivating things and just trying to find those little things that just, I think, ignite you and just kind of adds that extra layer of, I'm going to show you, right? I'm going to prove you wrong in some ways. And in many ways, I feel like that's what shaped who I am and why I enjoy doing what I do, because I love every day. It's a new opportunity to have another win, to grow, and to prove another person wrong or whatever it was. That's who I am. Some people, you mentioned the other day about MJ and Wade, all them guys about, what was it, confidence and arrogance.
Yes.
You read that. And I think I have confidence in my ability that, look, we're going to have a lot of losses. I'm going to get beat down a lot. I'm going to have a lot of failures and things like that. But if you have that mindset where you get caught up in those and you only focus on those, and it holds you back, I have that short-term memory where it's like, you know what, F it. Yes, that sucked. I don't want that to happen again, but I can't control it. I'm on to the next thing. I still have an end result. I still have the vision in place where here's where I want to go. And that's not going to stop me from getting there.
Yeah, no. And how do you, because there's a lot of people out there that, want a bigger life, a bigger opportunity for themselves. And, arguably there's nothing that can give you the most untapped opportunity as being in real estate in some capacity. Mm-hmm. And so how was it for you going from even in an employee world to make that shift, the jump to more of an entrepreneurial world, to where, hey, you don't hunt, you don't eat. How was it for you to make that shift mentally? And then, how do you have that conversation with somebody else that's trying to make the move? And because it can be real scary, right? It's like you're holding on to this monkey bar, and you gotta go, and you gotta let go to get to the next step. But sometimes it's so damn hard. And for you, how were you able to make that? And then how would you recommend somebody that's thinking about, hey, Bryan, I get it. I'm working a couple jobs here. I want to get into real estate. How do you kind of coach them or talk to them through that mentally of, hey, you got to let go of those monkey bars at some point to be able to grab onto a bigger opportunity?
Yeah. And honestly, I had, even when I was in the bank, I told you from day one, I had the mentality, a mindset that I want to be, I want to continue working up. I want to be CEO of this place, type things like that. I still had that entrepreneurial type. I still treated it, even though I was an employee, I still treated it as if this is mine in a way. But I think the saying is true. Like, I knew that unless I, released the handcuffs and burned the boats and just took that leap to where just like, what is the worst thing that can happen? Right. The worst thing that can happen, and I knew it, was that, look, maybe that mentor is right. Maybe 6 months from now, 12 months from now, I don't have no sales. I can still go find another job. I can still go back to that. Those jobs are there every day of the week. I could go back to the bank. I could go back and find something else. Like, I still had that, even though I didn't have a plan B I knew that, hey, I ain't going back. But I knew that if all hell, hit the fan, I could go back. I could, either, whether it was there or somewhere else. I had that. So I think the fear is that everybody was, they think about the fear of failure stops them from doing that so much, but I knew that, hey, the only way for me to know is to burn the bridges, quit cold turkey, take the risk, start real estate class, cash out the 401k to pay the bills, to have a safety net, things like that. But I think that's and that's what I tell people. I'm like, look, one of our newest agents, she's been a teacher for the past couple of years, and I've got her into real estate, and she's doing the same thing. She's burning the bridge, and she's now, she's turning to basically saying, hey, I'm finishing out the school year. I'm not coming back. I'm going all in on real estate. And here she is. She's, got 2 listings. She's got stuff going already. And she's already like, all right, can I quit today? Like, I want to finish for the kids, but can I quit today? But it is, man. I think I don't fear failure. And I think because going back to childhood again, like, I didn't grow up with much, and I've been in lower and worse. And I always knew that, like, look, I've been with nothing. I've been growing up in a, I don't say we were dead broke poor, but I was, of all the friends, we were the brokest, right? So things like that, I didn't have the stuff that all my friends had. So, like, my fear has always been like, that doesn't bother me, right? If I have to go back into a low place, so many people have that fear of, well, what is such and such going to say if this happens? Or what is such and such going to, are they going to, or am I going to prove them right? Or am I going to prove them, and so forth? And like, I didn't have that care of really, who cares if I go out and I make this and I leave this job that's paying me well and putting food on my family or, table, and 6 months in, 12 months in, I don't sell any houses, I can come back. But it was the what if I do good in this and I sell 20 houses, or I do sell 30 houses and then I'm making more money. Like, the what if for me in that scenario was much, much bigger and a better thing to look at versus the fear side of things on that what if.
Man, it's such a good point there. The golf course that I was at in California for 3.5 years, I had spent a lot of time out there with my aunt, and while she lived out there, their house was built on the golf course, and they were on eight tee box of one of the courses, and they had a little 4, 5, 6, and 7 loop, and 3 green was right across. And I kind of grew up out there, 7 iron, go play the 4-hole loop, and just kind of out there. But I think what you just said, even when you're teeing it up, what's the worst that could happen? When I hit it in the water, when I hit it out of bounds, oh, there's a house there, I might break a window. Like, that's the worst that's going to happen. Like, just focus on the target and swing the damn club. And I think, even that mentality into life, right? Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Just put your toe on the line. Let's go. Right. I think about that even on the endurance side of things. Like, mentally, I know I can cover any distance. Now it's putting in the work to make sure my body can cooperate. Same thing in business, right? It's like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of those other lessons, right? Even with my dad, he got into the golf business, and he just always trying to figure out all the ways to put some dollars together. That's why he coached every sport. That's why he took care of the fields during the summer. That's why he had his own business. And, he was always looking to explode it, another location, bigger location, just, so being on the side of seeing failure. And I think that's another great lesson, is that we don't always have to experience the failure ourselves. That's where being able to learn and watch and pay attention and having great mentors in our lives, because we can collapse time. That's wisdom, really learning from others' failures. And I think that's even seeing the relationships that we thought were going to last forever in junior high and high school, and, being able to kind of grow and evolve, man, it's, it really is some tremendous lessons that can apply as we continue to grow and scale in the future.
Yeah. Well, and going back to one of the things I think helped me early on in business in real estate was, you just mentioned it, was mentors. I knew that I'm one that I'm not fearful, and I'm going to consistently seek advice. I'm not scared to ask for, hey man, how did you do that? Right. One of my biggest mentors in real estate, and even you as well, that we'll get to, is that, I saw what this guy's not even in my local town, never even met him before, and things like that. And it's Trey Willard in Baton Rouge. And I saw what he was doing, and I wasn't scared. I shot him a message and we kind of connected. And that's how I really got into coaching. That was my first year and a half in real estate, where, so I took the leap. I knew that I wanted to get better, and I wasn't scared to go out and get into coaching. I knew that I needed to have mentors. I needed to have those people that were in those places that I wanted to get to. What better way than learn from their mistakes and have them coach you through that? And that's from day one. I've always had that mindset, is like, look, you can't do this alone. You do need those mentors. You do need those coaches around you to kind of help guide you and help see the future of what, maybe through their experience, or they've seen what could come from that. And they kind of help navigate to that, going right instead of left in certain scenarios. That's a big thing, is just having, it's that mindset of constant, one of our core values is, growth mindset. I want to consistently, everything I do through a core is down to not having no fear of becoming better, right? Taking it, whether it's asking somebody for advice, to, hey man, you're crushing it in FISBOs, you're crushing it in sphere of influence. Like, what is it that you're doing that I'm not scared of? You're just going to say F off or anything like that. I want to seek the advice. I want to see how I can become better, to learn from what you're doing, so that maybe I can get half as good as you are. And that gets me a little bit closer to that goal that I've done. So, that's how I got into coaching with you. Same thing. I saw that. I saw your messages, and I knew that, man, I wanted to connect with that. And it was just shooting you a message and saying, look, JK, like, I want to learn from you. Like, what can we do? Here's where I'm at. Here's where I want to go. What do you got? Like, how can I get better?
Yeah, no, I love it. And I think that's such an important mentality to embrace. And, we did it not even realizing what we were doing, but I learned, a little bit later on in life, Frank Shamrock's, plus minus equal concept that he has in his MMA, studios, that, you coming in, you're going to be a student here. You have to embrace the plus, minus, and equal. And what he's talking about is that you've got to find somebody that's better than you. That's where you want to go. And that's your plus. Your minus is somebody that's going to be a little bit below you, that you can train, coach, mentor, lead. You can be a mentor to them. And then the equal is who you need to be pushing yourself side by side and holding accountable. And, I know we've been talking about golf, and it's an individual sport, but it is very much, you're not going to succeed at any level without a strong support around you. Swing coach, putting coach, you want to take it to the next level, fitness coach, nutritionist, assistant, travel coordinator, right? You need key sponsors. It's a whole army. And that's the same principle as we continue to grow our business. Hero doesn't scale. And you've got to be able to surround yourself with that are going to create the feedback loops that we need to grow. And I was pulling up, I just want to make sure I nailed the quote right, but Seth Godin always says the person who fails the most wins. Mm-hmm. And, like what you and I were talking about, is the reason those guys went to that next level is because they failed more. Mm-hmm. They put more time in failing. You even look at baseball, right? I mean, you're in the Hall of Fame if you hit 3 out of 10, right? If you hit 3 for every 10 at bats, you get on base 3 times, you're in the Hall of Fame throughout your career. And so that means you fail more. And it's no different in golf, right? Just how many times did you spend out there failing? And that same lesson carries over for us in business. All businesses is getting no's so we can get more yeses. And it's real simple math equation. If we're not getting enough yeses, it's because we're not getting enough no's. And if we're not getting enough no's, is because we're not making enough offers. Interject offers for swings, for swings of the bat, swings of the golf club. You need to put in as many of those swings and as offers so we can get the no's, so we get the required amount of yeses that we need. And I think that's just that principle applies to anything that we want to get better at, right? Hey, I want to improve on my distance running. Well, how many times have you gone that far, right? How many times have you pushed yourself to go to that distance? And it's just trying to create enough at bats, enough times you teed it up to get the feedback that we need in the failures, so we can have enough wins for us to really make progress in life.
100%. Yeah. And it's no different. I look back at, when I first started in real estate, it was a lot, it still is, but it was a lot of, people see the end result. They see where you're at now, man, it's been great. It was doing this, but I look back sometimes, and luckily through social media, you get these reminders and memories from 5 years ago, things like that. It's like, the note cards I sent out in the beginning, the letters, the this and the conversations. It's like the hundreds and thousands of those that, that I would send out per day. I wouldn't get nothing. Right.
Nope.
But I didn't go. I knew that, hey man, I'm not going back. I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to True Lion. I don't want to do that. Right. I want to stay the course. I'm going to continue giving them my bats. And then, you talk about all the time is, you improve, conversion rates improve, you start getting a couple yeses, and then you get a couple more, and it evolved from there. But you're 1,000% right. It's going back to the fear side of things. I think a lot of people were fearful of, when you break it down, even of just calling somebody. Well, what if they get mad? What do they do? Call the next person. Tell them have a nice day, and call the next person, and and then have the same thing for that conversation. So it's which is easy to do. It's easy to say that, oh, just don't worry about it. But it's also very easy to get caught up in your own head and have that fear. I think even, you probably look at the, Tiger Woods and the Michael Jordans. I mean, they got nervous. They had fears of, what if I miss this shot and I let the team down, things like that. But they did it anyway, right? Because they put in the time, they put in the effort to say, hey, I'm okay with the results of what's ahead of me, right? But as long as I know I'm going to put in the effort, I'm okay with the results.
How do you work through that?
Those results.
Yeah, how do you personally work through that? Like, what's the trigger, right? Once you have that awareness, you're like, what am I scared of? Like, so how do you mentally kind of shift through that?
For me personally, I said it a second ago, it's not going to go. I'm not going to go backwards, right? Is me not doing this one activity, or me not doing this one, thing? Is it gonna push me 5 years backwards to where I was then? No, it's not. It's either I'm going to stay the same, and one, I'm not okay with staying the same. That's just who I am. But that's the worst case scenario. Is I'm going to make that phone call. They're going to say no. I'm going to send out this. They're going to say no. But I'm still staying here, right? But unless I do that, I'm not going to have that extra help. I'm not going to have that extra growth and things like that. So for me, it's just breaking it down to where it really is, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? For you, it's, if you're running and things like that, what's the worst thing? If you're wanting to run, for you, it's like 1,000 miles in a day. If I want to run that distance, what if I go a mile and I want to go? The worst thing is, you just started. You can go right back to the same spot you were at. But you start with, you said it on a podcast the other week was, within 6 minutes, your body's already telling you, whoa, dude, stop, but that if you get to a mile, your body's going to adjust. And then once you get to 2 miles, and once you get to 6 miles, you're like, all right, your body's telling yourself, like, you know what, you're right. We can do this. Like keep pushing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the fear of, or the lack of fear of, like, not caring in a way. And again, it's easier said than done, because a lot of people do, especially in business, you have that fear of, we got bills to pay, we got kids to feed, we got, family members that rely on us and things like that. But that's also a good reminder to where, if I don't do this thing, then, well, guess what? The fear of those things not happening is not going to happen. I'm not going to be able to have a closing. I'm not going to be able to have a sale to where I can actually pay my bills and things like that. And I think it holds a lot of people back, and a lot of people, if they just let loose and let that fear of having a no or being, the offer not getting accepted or the client saying F off or whatever it is, like if you do not do nothing, the result is going to be exactly where you're at right now, right? It's not going to happen. It's not going to come. So I think that's just, again, it's for me, it's just grounding yourself and realizing that, look, I'm where I am right now. I'm way off. I'm way better off than where I was 2 years ago, where I was 5 years ago, and before that. So like worst case scenario, if I go back to those places, I've built myself up. I can build myself up again, right?
Yeah.
To me, I just don't have that fear. And if I do, so what? Guess what's going to happen? I'm going to get right back to the spot that I'm at now.
Yeah. I've been talking, back and forth a little bit just because, I think growth happens not in comfort. It's uncomfortable. And so sometimes we forget that. We forget how uncomfortable growth can really be. And so I think that's the power for us having coaches, because
You reminded me that the other night. Here I am, and I still need reminders. And that was, a conversation me and you had the other night. That was your exact words were, dude, you're out of your comfort zone. That's where growth happens. It's not going to be, there's going to be a lot of rocky roads and things like that in as long as you're staying outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, it is. It's, do you have the belief that you're either growing or dying? And if you're comfortable, what is that? That comfort doesn't live in growth.
Yeah.
And so being able to put, understand that if you truly want to be better a little bit every day, you need to really be okay with being uncomfortable, living in a lot of, from the basic human needs. What does Tony Robbins talk about, right? How much uncertainty you can handle will be in direct proportion to how fast you're able to grow. Those that, can navigate uncertainty better, faster than those that can't experience, more growth. But I want to bring it back, man. It takes time. It takes experience. It takes, the losses, and it takes finding those other experiences. And sometimes we can borrow others' experiences. We still have to live it a little bit ourselves. And, the biggest one, and I know a comment just said, "Hey, great conversation for our youth." And man, I just reflect back on, like, we're probably right where we're supposed to be. However, taking that, being able to allow us to go faster. It's just like I said, I mean, everybody listening in, yourself even, like, I mean, there were probably a couple dozen of us, thick as thieves, man. We ran hard, for 3 or 4 years. And it was like, yeah, we're going to take over the world together. And, maybe there was a decade of time spent together. But I mean, I can honestly, this is not in any way to be negative, but there's only a handful of people that I even remember from that time. Maybe I'm a little bit older, but it's just the point of, you understand what's important. And I think when you are of growth mindset and you're always focused on getting a little bit better, you fight to who's around you. You fight to who's in your circle. You fight, and it's that whole crabs in the bucket type of understanding. And man, it was during the summer of last year. I was listening to, and this is what I believe too, Bryan, that holds a lot of people back, is they feel they have to bring everybody with them. And I was listening to Andy Frisella, and sometimes I just need some Andy in my life. And I was listening to him, and it was on his, I think, Q and AF type one of his episodes, and he was talking about about people, and he's like, "Bro," in typical Andy fashion, "Hey, bro, did you leave them, or did they choose not to come along?" I was like, Damn.
Yeah.
I feel for us as leaders, core value is growth. That's one of mine as well, right? I believe that we are focused and committed to grow personally and professionally every day.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get hung up. It's like, man, why are they not coming along? And it's like, did you leave them? Did you just leave them behind? Or did they choose not to level up and come along with you? And I think that's just a tremendous lesson. Are you committed to growth, or are you holding your potential back because of the people around you? And you think that they've got to come along with you for the ride.
Yeah. Or to that same thing, because I have many friends, it's not thinking that they got to come along for you to ride, but it's fear of, what are they going to say? Right. Are they going to, they think that they can't, this relationship has to last forever and things like that. But, I've had many friends that I look back now and they're in the same place they were 5 or 10 years ago. And if I were to rewind, like now that you're older, you look back and, you can almost predict those people, right? You can predict, hey, if you stay in this and you're not improving, like I can tell you right now where you're going to be at in 5 years. I can tell you where you're going to be at in 10 years, right? Unless you make changes. And I think that was, me and my best friend today, going back, we've been best friends since high school. And me and him both, we both had that same trajectory. It's like, look, dude, we're not gonna be caught in that circle, right? We're not that. I've never been that guy that, I have those group of friends now that, they're on Facebook and Wednesday night they're at the bar at 11 o'clock. I'm like, is there a reason that you haven't grown? You're not in a better place than you were. If in many cases they're probably in a worse place than they were 5 years ago. And I think again, like that's one thing that I'm appreciative of for me is that I've had that mindset. I don't know where it came from. But I know that when I step back and look at everything from a whole, I think that is one thing I'm thankful for and appreciative that look, I didn't get caught up in that mindset of giving a crap what somebody else said or giving a crap about, hey, this is my life, this is my decision. And these are the things that I want to grow or I want to accomplish. And if that may not be your goal and that may not be your path, but you're not going to hold me back, right? I'm not going to let your, the fear of losing you as a friend or whatever it was, like if I have that fear, guess what? I'm not going to reach my potential. I'm not going to reach my goals that I have and the things that I want to do. So again, I think a lot of people, you've got to have a little bit of that, mentality in a way is like, look, I can't be helping. Nobody's gonna hold me back. At the end of the day, it's, it goes back to effort. It goes back to a mentality. It goes back to, control the controllables. I'm the only person that can get me in a way. I can get into coaching. I can find mentors. But at the end of the day, just by being around them doesn't put me in a better place. I still got to go do the things, right? I get in, coaching with you. Like you can say all the things in the world. If I don't execute, if I don't take the action, I'm not going to change. I'm not going to go nowhere, right? But it still gives you a guide. And a lot of people I just think have I look at Parker, Parker Pemberton, one of our, business partners here is, one of his thing is that, the North Star. Who's your North Star? What's your North Star? Where are you going towards? And I think a lot of people have the wrong North Star. I tell agents all the time is, they're comparing themselves to this person's doing this and this person's doing this. I'm like, all right, let's break it down. Where are they at? Are they where you want to be? Because majority of the time they're not, right? I'm the person where I'll pull up numbers, I'll pull up business and like, let's see what their business looks like. I have the capability to see those things. And you're doing more than they're doing right now. So is that really your North Star? Or do you need to choose a different North Star and another mentor and person to kind of compare yourself and kind of be like? And that's where I've always had great North Stars. I've always been able to figure out whether it will be Trey, whether it be Parker's, whether it be you and things like that. I know who my North Stars and the people, like, hey, these people have been where I want to go to. Let me connect with them. Let me follow their path and learn lessons and insights from them because that's where I'm going towards. I'm not going over here to Sally because I'm doing better than Sally is right now. Sally's, it looks fine and dandy, but when you break it down to the surface, it's not where I want to be. That's not a North Star.
Yeah.
So I think I like Parker's, sharing that and it, again, when I step back and look at it, he's right. I've had a lot of good I have a good understanding of what my North Star is. And seeing the people that are there and actually having the commitment to say, all right, I want to learn from those people. I want to go after that. That's my North Star. I'm going that direction.
Yeah. It's so good. It really is, having that, it's going to move you in that known direction. And Yeah, it really is. It's fantastic. Brother, I appreciate you, jumping in, hanging out, being able to chop it up. Anytime we can get into lessons learned from growing up with the golf club in your hand. It's because
Yes.
it carries over to so much in life and to so much in business. There's so many amazing principles that you learn by playing such a humbling sport.
Oh yeah. Yep. And it's silly doing it. And it is such a silly comparison, but you're right. And it's not golf. It's you look at, you've heard it a lot of times. You look at pro athletes, look at the NFL, they play 1 hour per week, but they spend X number of hours per day practicing,
Right.
and it's like, it's the little small disciplines and the little small things that you have control over and that your effort can help you, attain.
Yep.
And it's doing those things. A lot of people just, again, I think it's starts with a vision. Where you're trying to go? What's the mentality? What do you need to do to get there? And do you have the willingness to actually take the first step and kind of go from there?
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
putting the support system in place to hold you accountable to what it is you say
Oh,
you
dude.
want to
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. I always tell about it. I mean, I don't know where I would be without coaching, in a way, and having, and not, it's not, people look at coaching sometimes different, even if it's just having a mentor. To me, a mentor is a coach, right? It's having somebody that, hey, is aligned with where you want to be at. And it's having the ability and the willingness to actually reach out, and sometimes you need to ask for advice. Everybody needs help. Everybody, you always say everybody needs a coach in their life, and
Yeah.
a coach. And a lot of people, it's not just. I think it's how you look at what a coach is.
Yeah.
I just think you need somebody there that supports you, that is willing to help you, kind of give you their feedback and so forth, and just putting yourself in those situations.
Yeah. I'm with you,
Yeah,
man. I think it's
yeah,
it's so powerful. And again, man, thank you for jumping in, adding a ton of value. And
man.
make sure you guys connect. Give Bryan lots of love. At Bryan_Colquitt, probably everywhere social media.
Yep, yep.
Cool. Awesome, brother.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you,
All right,
guys.
Doug. Yes,
See you on the
sir.
next episode. See you.
See you, dude. Thanks.